An exploration of the 1675 John Seller map of New England. The first map printed in North America is one that you may be familiar with, William Hubbard's map from 1677. That map was based on a 1665 survey by William Reed, and this is the first map to be drawn, engraved, and printed in North America. Although its geographic features are largely indistinct, its principal purpose was to identify the boundaries of the colony of Massachusetts. But years earlier, a more accurate and complete map had already been printed in England by John Seller. Seller was an English compiler, publisher, and seller of maps, charts, and geographical books. He wrote many textbooks, including Practical Navigation in 1669, and included many charts, such as the chart of the Nova Scotia coast in the upper left, and here a map of the city and port of Tripoli in Barbary, also published in 1675. Seller died in May of 1697, and is buried at the St. John's Church in the Wapping section of London. His map of New England was the first printed version of a survey done by William Reed in 1665, and incorporates information from a now lost manuscript map of about 1675. Seller's map of New England appears to have been issued separately sometime between 1666 and 1674, but also with copies of Seller's circa 1682 pamphlet, A Description of New England, and later in Seller's 1675 Atlas Maritimus. Frank Streeter said the map is the earliest separately published map of New England and the eastern edge of New York, and is the first printed map of the New York area, not entirely dependent on Dutch prototypes. The map is neatly divided into three distinct colonies: the Connecticut colony, the Massachusetts colony, and the Plymouth colony, which formed what was then known as the New England Confederation. It supports the colonial boundaries as described in the first Massachusetts Charter of 1628, bounded by New York and the Hudson River in the west, a vague Great Lakes area in the north, and Long Island in the south. The relative positions of the Hudson, Connecticut, and Merrimack rivers are clearly shown, even if not entirely accurate. The author of the map is clearly marked in the upper left-hand corner as John Seller, hydrographer to the king. The map was to be sold at a shop at the Hermitage in Wapping in London, and by John Hills in Exchange Alley in Cornhill, also in London. The map shows New England in the first century of its colonial existence. The province mapped here is what is settled principally by the Pilgrims of 1620 and their immediate successors, the men and women of the Great Migration of the 1630s. Nonetheless, it displays the extent and the variety of the Indian culture on the ancestral ground it held up to the time of King Philip's War, about which the map gives hints. Advertised in the London Gazette in early April 1676, at the heart of the map is a dramatic scene showing the colonists and the local Indians firing upon each other at Hadley, a battle which happened only as recently as the 1st of September in 1675. The map also shows with great thoroughness the territory as inhabited by the different local Indian tribes, such as the Waranoks, the Mohegans, the Connecticuts, the Mohawks, the Pequots, the Ninnicroffs, the Whippanops, the Narragansetts, and the Pokanoket country and King Philip's country, clearly marked on the map. Place this map on a current map of New England, and it will conform to present-day boundaries. In 1643, it was ordered that the whole plantation within this jurisdiction be divided into 4 shires: Norfolk County, Essex County, Middlesex County, and Suffolk County. The map also shows towns such as Salem, Boston, New Plymouth, and Swansea. Notice that Plymouth Colony remained as a colony separate from the 4 counties until 1685. Some of the tribal names that appear on the map include the Mohawks, the Pequots, the Narragansetts, and though the Massachusetts are not described as a tribe, they are included as Massachusetts Bay, and of course Pokanoket Country and King Philip's Country. Notice in the upper left we see the designation for Massasoits Country. We presume that has to do with the fact that the Massasoit who led the Pokanokets was also known to visit the Brookfield area of Massachusetts. Note that there was no mention of Wampanoag anywhere on the map in 1675 because that name didn't exist till after the war. Within the colony, we see towns of Warwick, Providence, rivers like the Providence River and the Seekonk River, and Narragansett Bay. Also, the city of Taunton, and Manomet Hill, the highest point in southeastern Massachusetts, close to Plymouth or Patuxent, and Seekonk at Rehoboth. We also see a label for Mount Hope way above Providence, which was poorly placed because it should be much further south near the N on this map. Early colonial towns included Taunton, Dartmouth, Portsmouth, which should be at the top of Rhode Island that you see at the left. An early name for Buzzards Bay called Manomet, and of course Aquidneck Island or Rhode Island, and the town of Newport. Finally, we see Cononicut Island or Jamestown, what is today called Canonicus Island. So by the time of King Philip's War, there was an accurate and detailed map of all of the New England colonies. It detailed the enormous extent to which the colonial population had begun to define indigenous lands that had been occupied for 10,000 years prior to the arrival of the English. It was this population growth that ultimately led to the outbreak of the King Philip's War in 1675. Today you can find copies of this map at the John Carter Brown Library at Brown University, Harvard University, the Norman Leventhal Map Center collection at the Boston Public Library, the University of Southern Maine, Yale University Library, the New York Public Library, and Pepys Library in Cambridge, England.